Alright folks, in this video I'm going to show you, we're going to actually do a two-part video. The first one, today's video, is just on refinishing this case. And the other one is replacing the movement. Now, just to let you know, this is a Seth Thomas, movement number 124 came in it. I guess it was written down here that it had a 124 in it. We don't have the movement, and I'm not going to run around looking all over the place for the movement. So what we're going to do is we're going to clean this one up. We're going to use a product that I'll show you here in a minute. And then we're going to wind up putting a quartz movement in there. A lot of folks that would come into our shop, they'd look at our clocks, and they didn't want to wind up a clock every 8 days or 30 days or whatever it was. So whenever these movements would come in, whenever these clocks would come in with no movements in them, we would wind up just putting some quartz movements in them. And now we found some really nice ones that we put in there that sound beautiful, and I'll let you hear them in a little while. We've done some other videos on them. But again, on this video, we're just going to show you how we're going to refinish this case. It's in pretty rough shape. Not too terribly bad, but not the greatest. You know, certainly something I wouldn't hang in my house or put on the mantle. A lot of times we would wind up using a colored lacquer. I mean, a lot of times that's what's on these things is a lacquer of some type. A lot of times that you can buy colored lacquers, and you have to look up. I forgot the names of some of the ones we used. But I went to the Home Depot and I found this Varathane. I guess it's like a polyurethane of some kind. It says it's an oil-based. I've never used it before. We're not being sponsored by them or anything, but I thought I'd give it a try and see. So basically all I'm going to do is we're going to take some steel wool and some cleaner, and we're going to clean this up pretty good. I'll take the face off. It does have the chime block in it. So we're going to take the chime block out. I'll take the face off of it, and then we will go ahead and Varathane polyurethane put on there. And it's a dark walnut, or American walnut, excuse me. And so it ought to come out pretty nice. Let's see. I'm not going to show you me doing it, but as I get done, I'll let you see how it looks. So sit tight and let me get started on it. Alright, so I'm going to start taking stuff apart. And this chime block, it just has 2 screws in it. I'll save it, but I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Put it in my pile of 10 million other clock parts. So, alright, let me get it out. Alright, I'll just set it aside. What I was going to tell y'all is do yourself a favor. I've mentioned this a lot of times in my other videos. Get you a little jar or anything to put all your parts in. So when you're finished, your parts will be there. Alright, I went ahead and take the face off, but I wanted to show you that it's just it is just a nice little tin face, and it's being held on by 4 screws. Nope, excuse me. It's being held on by 4 nails. And that is the nail. So you can see how tiny they are. So that's why I say put it in the jar so you don't lose it. Alright, so I got that off. Now, this is going to get kind of tricky. If you look, let's see if I can get this in here. Alright, if you look down in that hinge, there's 2 Phillips head Phillips head screws in there. They need to come out. So what you have to do, there's just no way to get to them from this side or from that side. Okay, so what you'll have to do is there is a little screw. There's a little screw right there on the hinge itself. So I will take that off with a small screwdriver. Apparently it must be out. Let me shut this off. Alright folks, so I don't like to edit my videos, but when I struggle on something, I'm turning it off. Or if I have like 12 screws to take out, I'll show you how one, but I'm not going to sit there and take out 12. So anyways, and also I forgot to turn on the brighter light. So anyways, this is the screw pin that needs to come out. I was turning and turning and it was struggling, wasn't coming out. So I finally realized that I can push the bottom and out it will come, hopefully. Let's see here. Yep, okay. So it's just a pin with threads on one side, screw hole on the other, and now it will go into my jar and my bezel will come off. I'll safely set it out of place, and then I can get to this bracket and get it off, and in my jar it goes. Alright, so this guy is now ready to be sanded down. I'm not actually going to use sandpaper. I'm going to use 4/0 steel wool. Now, I'm from the South, so people are like, what do you say? 4/0. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just very fine steel wool. And all I'm going to do is just lightly go over it, stay with the grain, just to kind of clean it up a little bit. I'm sorry about the wiggling. Let me get that cleaned up. I'll do the fronts and the sides and the back and everything. Like I said, we're just going to do it lightly. Nothing heavy duty. All right, let me get that done and then we'll come back. All right, folks, I am actually outside because I'm going to do this out of our farm. And the sun is going down, it's getting dark, so I'm probably going to be in my own way. But I did the back just to test it. It looked like it was pretty good. So I think what I'll do next is just one of the sides, and we'll see how it goes. It's actually kind of windy out here, so. Hopefully you can still see it. The ones we've done in the past with lacquer, it works better because the old ones had lacquer on them, and when you spray lacquer onto lacquer, the old lacquer melts and the new lacquer melts into the old lacquer, and it makes a just beautiful flat finish. This one, I'm just not too sure what else is going to happen. So, so far so good. Some of the grain is disappearing. I don't want to go too dark because the grain will completely disappear. But actually, it looks pretty good. So, Drawback on this stuff, I'm gonna have to wait till tomorrow for it to dry. So let me shut everything down and we'll come back tomorrow. Okay, folks. Well, it didn't turn out as nice as I wanted it to. It turned out okay, but I went ahead and bought some just plain lacquer and put it on there, and it turned out absolutely gorgeous now. So it's kind of hard to see, but it's got a beautiful shine to it. It's nice and smooth. There's no bumps. So everything's looking real good. Now we're going to go ahead and put a new movement in there. What we're going to put in, and I got videos on a lot of these, is we're going to wind up putting in one of these harmonic movements. Some people call them quads, some people call them harmonics. They're just called a bunch of things. But this one should fit without any issues, and we'll get in there and take a look and see how it's going to get in there, and then I'll show y'all in just a minute. Okay, so now I'm going to put the face back on. It's going to be hard for you guys to see, but there's tiny little holes right there. So we're going to line them up for the nails, and then just simply push the nails back in their place. They're going in almost all the way. They're sticking out just a little tiny bit, and I'll show you what I'm going to do to take care of that. Alright, so all four in there. Got my handy jar. And I am just going to take a small screwdriver and just press it down on the head carefully to make sure I don't slip and scratch anything. All right, now comes time to figure out which movement's going to fit in there. All right, folks, so now the reason I said we're going to figure out which one it works in it or will fit is they're all the same size, okay? It's the hand shaft that's different on a lot of them. There's that one there. You can see that this one's a little shorter. And then I've got another one that's even shorter than that. All right, if you were, well, I got a whole video on how to pick the right ones, but and the difference between them. So, but what you want to make sure is you want to make sure that when you put this movement in here, that the threads protrude past the face just a little bit, okay? That way you can get the washer and the nut on there. And then there are some screw holes. There are some screw holes right here and right there that we'll be able to hold. We'll put some screws in there and hold things down. Now, you can super glue it if you want to. A lot of people do. I've done it many a times. Usually it's a little quicker, easier. When you run screws through there, what you have to be very careful of is to make sure that you do not have too long of a screw and they wind up protruding past. Sure they don't protrude past the face. You'll see dipples and bumps in here with a screw hole. Let me get this movement put in and we'll go from there. All right, a couple things I wanted to there's a few things I want to mention to you guys before you get going, and this is all just, you know, how far you want to take stuff. The old winding holes that are in here, when you put these movements in, you can see all the works and everything. So typically what I'll do is I'll just get some electrical tape and just tape over it. Nothing fancy. Why? It's not going to hurt the movement. It's going to be black. That way you won't see it on those winding holes. Get a little closer for you. Yeah, so you can see that we can just, oops, that was too small. So we can just cover them up. Makes it look a little more pleasing when it's sitting on a mantle. Nobody can tell. So I'll wrap that other piece back up. Then the only other thing I wanted to mention was we did one time, and the sound, you could barely hear it. So what we ended up doing is we went back to our manufacturer and told them, hey, we need to make these things louder. So they did. The speaker's a little bit bigger. They're a higher wattage. They're very loud. They do real well. But just in case, before I got started, I wanted to do what? Well, let me kind of back up. These little feet right here, they'll sit on the ground like so, and there's just a very small gap that the sound can travel out of. So we'll cut a hole in there. Probably won't need to use it on this one because these are a lot louder. But if you do want them louder, you can cut a hole in the bottom. We've had one of the guys actually for his personal one, he cut a hole in the back. And man, that you could hear that all over the whole house. But they do have volume controls on them, so you can turn them down. So, all right, so let me get this movement in, and we'll go to the next step. All right, so we're getting ready to install the movement in the package that we sell. You'll see a little rubber gasket, washer, whatever you want to call it. You can put it on either way, it doesn't matter. And it will go onto the shaft, and then the shaft hole goes through your the shaft hole goes through the shaft goes through the shaft hole, and you got a little bit sticking out. The next thing you're going to do is there's a little brass washer, and I'm struggling because the door won't let me get it taken care of. All right, and then we've got the nut that holds it in place. Now, you can get that down pretty tight, and I'll always do a finger tight. And then, hang on a second, let me get over here and get to pliers. All right, and then we'll take the pliers. Now, pair must be a little rusty. And then just gently tighten it up a little bit. And that's going to hold it. All right, the movement's not going anywhere. It's sitting in here just fine. I got it level. It's kind of important that you get it, I guess, level or whatever, so the hands hit right at the top of the hour. So let me run a couple screws down in these screw holes, and I'll let y'all see what happens after that. All right, got the speaker in. on that one, super glued a little bit. And now I am going to put the hands on. Dealing with these movements, and I have a whole other video on how to reset them, how to take care of them. They're kind of strange, but what you want to do is on these, let me move this out of the way. Okay, so on these hands that we send, they actually have plastic coating on them that you want to take off. Okay, let's get this here like so. All right, so your hour hand is going to go anywhere you want to. It just press fits on. If there's a right here, this vinyl piece on these movements, it just presses on. Okay, so it can go anywhere. Typically, when these movements come from the factory, the default is about 10 minutes to 6 o'clock. So if you want to, you can get this as close to 6 o'clock as you want to. I've been playing with this movement, so I don't know if it's going to work or not on that. But that is the default. Like whenever you take the batteries out and you put batteries back in, it's going to default back to 10 minutes to 6. Now, that doesn't mean the hands are, that just means the clock movement is. And like I said, that's a whole nother video. All right, so on this movement, these are called eye shaft movements. Let's see if I can get in any closer. I don't know if you can see that or not. Let's see. Let me get my flashlight. See if we can get any brighter. Not really. Pull back some, it might get a little better. Now, okay. Anyway, so these movements are called eye shaft movements. You can see the shape of the hole on this hand, and the shape of the stud sticking out is identical. So here's what you got to be careful. It can go on this way, or it can go on this way. Depends on which way it goes will determine which way it's going to work. So we'll have to do some adjusting. So if I put it on this way and bring it here, that click might be the top of the hour. We don't know. We're going to look into it and see. Now, if you notice, this hand is a little bit long. I'm going to have to cut it because at this point I do not have the correct size hands. So we're just going to pinch it off a little bit with a pair of pliers. Okay, so it's not rounded anymore, it's squared off. It looks okay. So now we're going to go ahead and tie put the nut on. Okay, so we have an open hole nut. And here's where you have to be careful. You want to get this down, you want to get this hand, our hand, you want to make sure they don't touch. Your next option is you've got a hole in the center here. If you want to, you can put a second hand in there. Now these movements are not sweep hands, so they tick. If you don't want a second hand in there, then in the kit comes this little black knob, and now you can't tell the difference. So when I put the bezel on, I've got to make sure that it's not touching the glass. So we might wind up having to bend this in a little bit, but then you got to be careful to make sure when it comes around, it does not hit the glass at all. All right, so put some batteries in it and see how this guy sounds and see what it's going to do for us. Now again, I'm not going to go into the details of the clock being off or doing this, that, the other. We got videos on that. Yeah, you can see it's pretty loud. That's going to be nice. I don't know if you can tell the difference, but if I lift it up, it's even louder. Now I have in the past gone to Home Depot. Hang on a second, we'll let this thing go through its... Okay, so I have in the past gone to Home Depot or Lowe's or wherever and replaced these with thicker feet. Sometimes they'll come in, they won't have any feet at all. But if you put a thicker foot in there, it's going to raise this guy up, and man, it's going to be good and loud for you. So let's check out the bezel and see how it's going to go. I've got to put the little bracket back, and I'm going to do that off camera. I'll get everything all set, and then we'll go from there. All right, everybody, the bezel went back on fine. It's not, the glass is not touching the hands. What you want to do is you want to open it up, and you want to keep your eye on the edge of that hand, and as you close it, you just want to see if it touches and moves. You also can look at it, oops, you can look at it at different angles and see, but this one is not touching. So I think we're good to go. I am going to polish it up just a little bit more and then go put it in the house on the mantle, start taking some pictures of it. This one's probably going to be ready for sale. I hope I didn't miss anything. If I did, I'll try to put it in the description. Ew, that's horrible. Y'all have any questions or any comments, please let me know. We do sell these movements. Again, there's videos that we have. They're great movements. I love them. We work with the manufacturer, try to make them a little different than other people's. But this particular one we have right now is just, it is a lot louder than anything we've ever had come in the shop so far. And they were real accommodating for us. So again, any questions, any comments, please let us know. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you want to, because we'll be putting out a lot of videos on these little movements. Thanks for watching. All right, folks, not the greatest spot for it, but I just wanted you to look at it and see what it looked like when it's all done. And I'll let you hear what it sounds like here in just a moment. But it turned, oh, I'm sorry about the glare. Let me just step back. But yeah, it turned out real nice. I really like it a lot. So let me back it up and let you hear what it sounds like.